bridges or burn them. Let's choose peace in our words, our action, and our hearts. Peace begins with you. Together, we can create a brighter and safer future for everyone. Join me. Let's be that change we want to see.
Once upon a time in a Caribbean island known for its rich culture and natural beauty, lived a group of people who were buried in piles and piles and more piles of paper. Papers spanning back to the start of time. Then came a bright idea, harnessing technology to work smarter and not harder. The government of Jamaica is improving its operations to serve citizens better. Many services are now available online, and there's more to come. The government of Jamaica, building a better public sector for all.
What is the role of a backbencher in government? I'm glad you asked. They're members of parliament who are not appointed to cabinet. So they sit in the back of the legislature and they apply pressure. They examine what government legislates, participate in parliament debates, raise issues and advocate and question chamber when things don't look straight. Backbenchers represent the constituents in parliament. Backbenchers oversee the interests of citizens, you and me. But how can they be agents of government accountability after them no hold a portfolio? And them and a minister? No. So then how can they facilitate government transparency? And the next thing, them and a front bencher. So how them affect me? You see, a lot of work is in committees. So these portfolio-free MPs with less dire responsibilities are more accessible to you and me. So they help with policy, but it helps if we engage them, you see. So they're not just in the back benches, but on the ground, in the trenches. Though in the back of parliament, we're at the front of their cause. So pause. Find your backbencher at jampja.org.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Jamaica is changing right before our very eyes. Across the island, billions are being invested into our road networks, from farm and community roads to major roads and highways. Dozens of communities across the length and breadth of Jamaica are receiving access to reliable potable water for the very first time. And thousands of Jamaicans have become homeowners thanks to the historic shifts in policies of the National Housing Trust, making it easier for Jamaicans to receive funding. Not to mention the record number of houses being built. Never dreamed you would own a home? No matter your circumstance, home ownership is possible for you, thanks to the government's new social housing program specially designed to meet the needs of poor Jamaicans at no cost to them. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Zoom in on the nutrition facts. It in at the table on the side of the back. You fi check out the servings, just do the maths. Not taking too much, finger below the facts. Zoom in on the nutrition facts. It in at the table on the side of the back. Take note of the sodium, the sugars and the fats by percent. Unless you're on the right track. You fi zoom in on the nutrition facts. It in at the table on the side of the back. Vitamins, minerals and vitamin 2, 20% and more. That good for you. You fi zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. You fi zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. You fi zoom in. Check the nutrition facts. Less sugar, less salt intake and less fat. You fi zoom in.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Jamaica Moves, the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, the National Health Fund, and Japan.
The following is brought to you by MOCA, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency with kind support of NIA and USAID.
Lock them out.
Criminal minds think they are cunning. The major organized crime and anti-corruption agency have them running. Your friend a shout, come here. Take time and running. Because we ready for the ops. Drive up on your block. Step out now me black. Cyber take a boy your laptop. Pull up every lock. No evidence to drop. We put it in a cuffs and now we have the underlock. Sin you say scam, you better look out fit. When you move corrupt, better look out fit. They say you get wet, look out fit. Look out fit. Look out fit. From you say scam, you better look out fit. When you move corrupt, better look out fit. They say you get wet, look out fit. Look out fit. Look out fit.
The proceeding was brought to you by MOCA, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency, with the kind support of NIA and USAID.
MOCA! MOCA!
Are you an entrepreneur producing an excellent Jamaican product or service? Did you know you can earn hard currency and more significant returns by exporting? Contact the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce to help propel your business along the export lane.
Everything you can produce, the Jamaicans overseas want it. We're not going to get rich by just bringing down the debt. We're going to get rich by exporting a lot more. So grow exports, create job opportunities, drive economic growth through exports to make Jamaica a richer and much more prosperous country.
So who keeps our taxpayer money in check? Well, the PAC and PAAC help watch over the country's budget. And one might sound like it just have an extra A, but they're way different. Here's how. The PAAC and PAC are two committees that watch the money. The Public Accounts Committee reviews government projects after them close. They do a post-audit check to see what problems arose with the costs and call officials to explain decisions that cause budget mismanagement. And then they recommend corrective action. So the problem will happen from when, not happen again. But what about the money we are spending right now? The PAAC. That's how Public Administration and Appropriations Committee pretty much means your money will protect as it happen, we check. While projects go on, things are accurate. As government spend the nation's budget, PAAC reviews it. They examine proposals and summon officials to find problems before them don't use it. So the PAC and PAAC are two parliamentary committees that watch over the country's wallet to protect the budget and keep it in check. And you can get involved. Just visit jampja.org.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Jamaica is changing right before our very eyes. Across the island, billions are being invested into our road networks, from farm and community roads to major roads and highways. Dozens of communities across the length and breadth of Jamaica are receiving access to reliable potable water for the very first time. And thousands of Jamaicans have become homeowners thanks to the historic shifts in policies of the National Housing Trust, making it easier for Jamaicans to receive funding. Not to mention the record number of houses being built. Never dreamed you would own a home? No matter your circumstance, home ownership is possible for you, thanks to the government's new social housing program specially designed to meet the needs of poor Jamaicans at no cost to them. We are building Jamaica.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
What can a little germs do?
Pink eye running belly, even flu. Germs can make them happen to you.
Put germs on our manners with these. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Always wash your hand with water and soap. Keep dirty hands from your eyes and your nose and your mouth. You don't want to be sick, take care. Practice every day, no germs on here. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Speeding kills. Obey the speed limit. A message from the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Mining.
Zoom in on the nutrition facts. It there in the table on the side or the back. If you check out the servings, just do the maths. Not taking too much, figure below the facts. Zoom in on the nutrition facts. It there there in the table on the side or the back. Take note of the sodium, the sugars and the fats. 5% or less in the on the right track. You for zoom in on the nutrition facts. It there in the table on the side or the back. Vitamins, minerals and fiber to 20% and more that good for you. You for zoom in, check the nutrition facts. You for zoom in, check the nutrition facts. You for zoom in, check the nutrition facts. Less sugar, less salt intake and less fat. You for zoom in.
A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Jamaica Moves, the Heart Foundation of Jamaica, the National Health Fund, and JAPNet.
Each year, the Jamaican Parliament approves billions in tax dollars to buy goods and services for Jamaicans. Awarding contracts to private companies to provide public goods and services is called public procurement, and it is a major hotspot for corruption. Can citizens spot the red flags in public procurement and help the government protect our taxes? Yes, they can, and here are 6 to watch for. Direct contracting. When contracts are frequently awarded to one supplier without other companies competing to offer a better price and quality, we usually end up paying more and getting less. Contract splintering. Big projects need big money and higher level approvals. But if the contract is cut up into smaller ones, it won't need external approval from offices like the Public Procurement Commission or Cabinet. This makes it easier for contracts to avoid additional scrutiny. Timing of advertisements. Contracts advertised during distracting periods like the holidays can result in less competition and a really strong advantage for the favored company. Like Christmas time, work slows down and companies are less attentive to business opportunities. Emergency contracting. Claiming emergencies allows officials to legally bypass normal procurement rules, making it easier to award contracts to favored companies. Contract timing. Contracts awarded just before or after election can be payback for campaign support and not based on what Jamaicans really need. Collusion. And what if penalties are not enforced when work is poorly done? This could be a contractor and public official working together for private benefit. And if it is, this is collusion. These flags do not prove corruption, but they trigger questions that citizens must ask. So mind your business, Jamaica. Visit the JAMP Procurement Tracker to monitor government contracts. If you spot these flags, use our ATI tool to ask questions and demand accountability.
Me, I go show them my way of justice.
I'm abused.
I need legal advice. I don't deserve this.
The truth of the matter is, justice there for all of we. The Ministry of Justice has trained more than 5,600 persons in restorative justice practices. More than 200,000 victims have been supported by the victim services. Legal aid has reached thousands island-wide. Make we talk it out, not fight it out. Call 888 Justice today. Motorists, as Minister of Justice, I appeal to you, obey the road code. Pay your ticket on time and only go to court if the ticket is being contested. Close to 80% of matters coming to the parish courts are for traffic breaches. Let's work together to make our roads safe and ease the burden on our courts.
Cook it up and make we steam it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Cook it up and make we roast it. Farm fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Grow smart at the best part. Food for thought so me have to eat smart. Easy catch, fully net. A tilapia so you don't know what's next. Cook it up and make we fry it. Fresh so me need it, tilapia a real fish. Bring home the best in freshwater fish. High content of vitamin B3, protein and potassium. Tilapia, simple, healthy, delicious.
Na 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 na, we want a piece for Jamaica. Yeah, yeah. We have to be our brother's keeper. Yeah, yeah. Jamaica live good, yeah. I make we enjoy life. What we feel safe at night. Jamaica live good. I better you and I. No say we future bright. Jamaica live good. Come together as one. I make the violence the one.
babes, why me I call you so much time and I not get you? Sorry me lick you again yesterday. Yo, me know me mess up, but I can't wear them something there road and I expect me to react. I know me jealous and fool and easy for lose my temper, but call me back here. Still not get tired. Hey, girl, think me have to call your phone? You know who you deal with? You think I want to lick me again next time? Eh?
It doesn't have to be this way. You can leave an abusive relationship. Just call 876-553-0372. We will help you.
Hey, just a reminder, your mental health is just as important as your physical health. If you're feeling overwhelmed, try talking to a trusted friend or family member. You don't have to go through it alone. Sometimes sharing your feelings can make a big difference. If you need more support, don't hesitate to reach out to the Health and Wellness Ministry's Suicide Prevention Helpline at 888 New Life. That's 888-639-5433. Remember, it's okay to ask for help. Your feelings matter, and there are people ready to listen. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.
I wonder who that somebody be. No, sir. Let me look for my glasses. Oh, that somebody look like right, sir. It's Lottie, walk on. Me glad for see you, right? Although things never go on for you, America, me glad to see you there.
Yes.
Lift your head high.
Yes.
Stay out of trouble.
Yes.
And you can have a fresh start back home.
All right, Mr. P. Thanks, you hear?
Let's all work together for a fresh start back home.
The following is brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Motorists, certificates of fitness are now digital. Here's how it works. First, make your payment at TAJ inline or online. Then, take your receipt along with your vehicle to an Island Traffic Authority service hub for physical inspection. A valid email address is required to receive your digital fitness. Once the inspection is complete, your certificate number will be sent directly to your email. To access your digital certificate, visit cgds.gov.jm/fitness, enter your certificate number and the chassis number, and view your certificate online. New validity periods are here. New vehicles, 5 years. Vehicles 10 years or less, 3 years. And those older than 10, 1 year. No more paper certificates, just secure, digital access anytime, anywhere. For more information, connect with us via email at info@ita.gov.jm or on social media at Island Traffic Authority.
Do you wish there were a way your community could get funding to improve a school, health center, sports program, and more? There is! It's the Constituency Development Fund. Here are a few things you probably didn't know about the CDF and how you can make it work better for you. The CDF policy promotes citizen participation in community development and protection of taxpayers' funds. It outlines that MPs are to meet with citizens at least once every 2 years to agree on the projects needed. You know, it used to be once a year? We should really go back to that. Projects developed without community consultation are not to be approved by the bipartisan CDF Parliamentary Committee. There are 26 government agencies that implement projects, usually for a small fee. Funds are provided directly from the Office of the Prime Minister to the implementing agency, not through the Member of Parliament. The CDF unit monitors project costs and implementation, so if you have questions about how the CDF are run in your community, contact them. To ensure no one project or community gets all the funds, there are 6 project categories with spending limits for each. There must be no less than 5 and no more than 20 projects each year. To learn more, visit jampja.org to view your MP's CDF info and tell them how this fund has impacted you. If you don't see your MP CDF reports, then put them under little pressure, man. Call, tweet, email. Ask them when they'll submit it and when is the next CDF meeting. Change is possible. It's already happening. What we need is you. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Today, we can report 2 consecutive years of reduction in major crimes and murders, with a significant reduction of almost 20% in murders for 2024. Between January 2022 and January 2025, we have reduced murders by 51%, and January 2025 had the lowest monthly murder count since September 2014. Our efforts have also resulted in the reduction of active gangs by 50%. We continue to increase firearm seizures, and in more communities, we are experiencing less violence. We will realize our vision of Jamaica as the place of choice to live, work, do business, raise families, and retire in peace and prosperity.
The proceeding was brought to you by the Office of the Prime Minister.
Give yourself a fighting chance. Wear an approved helmet. A message from the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Mining.
Peace begins with us. Every act of kindness, every step towards understanding brings us closer to a brighter tomorrow. Let's choose unity, compassion, and hope. Together, we can build a future where peace reigns.
Brighter tomorrow starting today.
When the storm rages and the world feels shaken, remember our strength lies in unity. It's in coming together, sharing hope, and standing shoulder to shoulder that we find resilience. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement builds a brighter tomorrow. We are stronger as one. Our courage, compassion, and hope will light the way forward. Together we rise. Together we rebuild, because hope is never lost when we stand united, because we are stronger together.
Most Jamaicans will tell you corruption in politics is deep-rooted, and I just saw it set, and nothing can do about that. But actually, there is, and another 152 countries are doing it. It's called asset declaration, and it works best where citizens themselves understand it and help to ensure the law is enforced. Corruption happens when public officials abuse their power to benefit themselves, family, or associates. Jamaica's Integrity Commission Act was designed to prevent corruption, and here are 5 things you should know. 1. Under this law, every year MPs and senators must report what they earn, own, and owe, and if they don't, they'll be sanctioned. 2. Their report must include the same kind of information for their wife or husband and children. 3. If they get a gift worth more than $100,000 from anyone who's not family, they must declare it. 4. A summary of the declarations of our Prime Minister and opposition leader must be published where the public can read it. 5. Parliamentarians can now be prosecuted by the Integrity Commission. They can be fined up to $2 million or serve up to 2 years in prison if they don't file their declaration or if they give false information, and $500,000 for not filing on time or ignoring requests for information. Unfortunately, our parliamentarians made changes that prevent the public from knowing when they've broken the law or when they're being investigated. We really need to change that. Visit jampja.org to find out more about the act and to track if your MP is obeying this law. If they're not, JAMP's MP Tracker will help you write, tweet, or call your MP. Ask them, you submit your declaration yet? The Integrity Commission clear you? Let's help the Parliament stay honest. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
Hi everyone, here are 5 benefits of being a beneficiary of the Students' Loan Bureau. 1. Benefit from our 99% approval rate. 2. Benefit from our low interest rate, so less burden when you need to repay. 3. Benefit from the fact that we require no collateral when applying. 4. We're giving you more time to focus on your studies while we focus on the financing. No need to worry about repaying while in school. Number 5. Receive a 14 months grace period after your graduation date before you enter repayment. Don't forget to follow us on all SLB platforms for more SLB info.
When the storm rages and the world feels shaken, remember our strength lies in unity. It's in coming together, sharing hope, and standing shoulder to shoulder that we find resilience. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement builds a brighter tomorrow. We are stronger as one. Our courage, compassion, and hope will light the way forward. Together we rise. Together we rebuild, because hope is never lost when we stand united, because we are stronger together.
Hey, I'm Abijah, the Roots Man. Today, I want to talk to you about something powerful. Peace. Peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's about kindness, understanding, and respect. It starts with us. Every choice we make can build bridges or burn them. Let's choose peace in our words, our action, and our hearts. Peace begins with you. Together, we can create a brighter and safer future for everyone. Join me. Let's be that change we want to see.
Peace is a choice we make every day. When we come together with love and understanding, we create a future free of violence and fear. Let's stand united, build bridges, and nurture hope for our children and our communities.
Every year, the Jamaican Parliament approves billions of our taxes to be spent on goods and services provided by the private sector. Everything from pens to power plants, cleaning services to construction are obtained through a process called public procurement. But who funds this process? Citizens do. And we want our taxes to be spent wisely. When we talk about public procurement, there's a critical concept called value for money. We hear it in the Parliament all the time, but what does it really mean? Some think value for money means choosing the cheapest option, but it's more than that. For example, a community needs a new bridge, and the government receives bids from 3 companies. Company A offers to build it for $10 million in 18 months with a 50-year lifespan. Company B wants $12 million to finish in 12 months with a 75-year lifespan. Company C asks for $8 million, needs 24 months with a 25-year lifespan. Company B actually offers the best value for money. To determine that, we look for 4 crucial factors: economy, efficiency, effectiveness, and equity. Let's explore what each means. For economy, we must look beyond the upfront price and consider the full lifetime costs to maintain the bridge. Cheaper options could lead to frequent and expensive repairs. We get efficiency if the bridge is built within budget and on time, with no waste of materials. To achieve this, we need the best team, and clear criteria helps the government to pick the best proposal. Effectiveness looks at whether the government achieves its goal. This could require a community needs assessment to ensure the bridge will reduce transport costs and travel time, withstand the annual flooding with little disturbance to plant and animal life. Finally, equity. This is about fairness, satisfying the different needs of the community. The bridge design considers not just cars and pedestrians, but is sensitive to the needs of the elderly, the disabled community, and children. So when we're talking about value for money, don't just ask how much it did cost. Ask, what are we truly getting for our money? The cheapest option today can become the most expensive mistake tomorrow. So from now on, let's ask the right questions for Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well.
Justice, and from whom alone cometh all counsel, wisdom, and understanding. We, thine unworthy servants, here gathered together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above, to direct and guide us in all our consultations, and grant that we, having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the king, the public weal, peace and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity one towards another. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
You may be seated. This honorable House resumes its sitting. Call of the roll.
Mr. Clark. Here. Mr. Green.
Dr. Holness, Dr. Chang, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Bartlett, Ms. Grange, Dr. Tufton, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Montague, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Charles Jr., Mr. Morgan, Ambassador Marks, Mr. Samuda, Dr. Wheatley, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Terrelong, Mr. Witter, Mrs. Dalrymple Filbert, Ms. Morrison, Miss Lee, Mr. Donovan Williams, Mr. Main, Ms. Crawford, Mr. Delroy Williams, Ms. Hamilton, Mr. Steve Wright, Mr. Azan, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brownberg, Mr. Buchanan, Mr. Bunting, Ms. Burchell, Dr. Campbell, Mr. Cousins, Mr. Crawford, Ms. Daly, Dr. Dawes, Mr. Golding, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Hales, Mr. Hines, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Ms. Jess, Mrs. Malahoo Fort, Mrs. Miller Bennett, Mr. Morris, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Newell, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Ms. Perkis, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Dr. Russell, Ms. Shaw, Mr. Smith, Mr. Vaz, and Mr. Warmington. Ambassador Marks. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thanks. Today we resume the sitting of the House of Representatives, it being Wednesday, June 3rd, 2026. We will continue the sectoral debate and we'll have presentations from the Minister of Local Government and Community Development, whom is the Member of Parliament for Kingston West, Honourable Desmond Mackenzie, the Member of Parliament for Manchester South, Mr. Peter Bunting, and finally, the Member of Parliament for St. Elizabeth North East, Ms. Zulika Jess. I wish to extend a special welcome to the constituents in the gallery from the constituencies represented by all three members of Parliament presenting today. I trust that you will all find today's proceedings enjoyable and informative, and remind you not to clap, make loud comments, or engage in any way that would disturb the proceedings in the chamber. I would also like to welcome PBCJ, all the various traditional and social media platforms as we enjoy today's sitting. House Leader.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, and I would like to welcome those in the House as well as those in the gallery. Madam Speaker, I'm asking that we suspend the items up until public business in order for us to take the sectoral debate which we want to resume at this time. Thank you.
Question is that we suspend the items on the agenda and move directly to public business. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Sectoral debate continues today, and we have 3 members who will be making their presentations today. The first will be the Minister of Local Government and Community Development and the Member of Parliament for Kingston Western, the Honourable Desmond Mackenzie. And then we will have the Member of Parliament for Manchester Southern, Mr. Peter Bunting, who will be followed by the Member of Parliament for St. Elizabeth North Eastern, Ms. Zulika Jess. We now ask that Minister Mackenzie makes his presentation in this sectoral debate.
Minister Mackenzie, Minister of Local Government and Community Development, has risen to his feet. Please make him welcome.
Madam Speaker, I am making my contribution to this year's sectoral debate with a tremendous sense of commitment and confidence. I feel this way for a number of reasons. I feel confident because for the 11th year running, my leader and Prime Minister and Chairman of Cabinet, Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, has invested his trust in me to elevate the contribution of local government to national development. I feel confident because of the unshakable love and loyalty of my family, who continue to love me unconditionally throughout all the highs and the lows of public life. I am sure, more than sure, pretty confident that I can go home to my family and enjoy the comfort of home. And I want to thank them for allowing me the opportunity to serve. I am confident, Madam Speaker, in the extended family of the people of West Kingston, who have nurtured and supported me from my tender age as a youth. You have trusted me to represent you as a councillor for over 34 years, Madam Speaker, and as Member of Parliament for the last 14 and a half years. I would like this honorable House to record my gratitude, Madam Speaker, to the great constituency of West Kingston, Madam Speaker. To my permanent secretary and the wonderful team of the Ministry of Local Government, I want to thank them for their support over the many years. To my personal staff in the ministry, my close protection officer, and all the persons, Madam Speaker, who have allowed me to do the things that I'm doing. I want to thank them for their continued success, and I hope we will continue on this path as we build back Jamaica bigger, better, and stronger. Let me, Madam Speaker, express my great concern about some of the disdainful and distasteful and frankly arrogant attitude to your leadership that I have observed inside and outside this Parliament. It is all more concerning because one have not been able to point out in any credible way any failures on your part to execute the rules of the House or any abuse of your authority. We on this side, Madam Speaker, and I'm sure there are other members, who have a proud tradition of, we on this side have a proud tradition of promoting talented and hardworking nation-building women to office of great responsibility in public life. I go back to the late Honorable Jeanette Grant Woodham, who was the first President of the Senate appointed in 1984. I also can recall the appointment of the Honorable Marissa Dalrymple Filbert, who was elected twice to serve as Speaker of this House. However, we have a strong female leaning on leadership on this side. But on the other side, Madam Speaker, when I went to the Senate in 2002, the then President was Syringa Marshall Burnett. At that time, no political differences pointed to any level of disrespect. The same is true during the tenure of Violet Nielsen. I never had the opportunity. But let me say, Madam Speaker, there is no basis for the verbal attack that has been launched against you, Madam Speaker. I am calling for this to stop, Madam Speaker. We as legislators will sometime call for your protection. I believe that we should also protect you and your office from the unwarranted remarks. Having said that, Madam Speaker, I know that your heart is true and your resolve is strong. No weapon formed against you will prosper, Madam Speaker. Today I feel a tremendous sense of public commitment. For the second time in 10 years, Jamaica is experiencing life in uncharted waters. The first unprecedented experience was the global pandemic of COVID-19. The second experience, which we are still emerging from, is the iron category Hurricane Melissa. This administration led Jamaica into recovering strong from COVID-19. And we are fully confident that we will continue to have the support of the Jamaican people. We will achieve the current objective of national reconstruction, which is now underway. We recognize that Melissa has redefined the role of government and expectations of its citizens. According, Madam Speaker, my presentation will focus on the projects and programs that the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development is doing to facilitate and to speed up the expansion of the new Jamaica that is now under construction. I have also tabled today in this Honorable House the performance of the Ministry of Local Government, which is tabled, that members can see the success of the ministry over the last financial year. The Most Honorable Prime Minister has defined the period of restoration after Melissa as the reconstruction phase. In this context, the role of the ministries, agencies, and local authorities in the development approval process has taken on even greater value. Between January and September 2025, in the first 9 months before Melissa hit Jamaica, there was significant construction activities as well as an impressive number of building applications. Over 3,764 applications were submitted, representing an 11% increase in the number of applications received. Those applications valued were at a value of $46.1 billion, which is an increase in the investment value compared to the same period in 2024. Just as importantly, 81% of those applications were approved within the benchmark period of 90 days. And for the same period, the numbers of approval given was valued at 164.2 billion Jamaican dollars, Madam Speaker. Pre-Melissa figure not only demonstrate critical expansion of the built environment when compared to the development application and approval figures after Melissa. They stand as an important testament to the hard work of the local authorities and agencies, such as the Jamaica Fire Brigade, to push the country through a recovery phase into reconstruction phase. Despite the loss and damage to municipal buildings in at least 4 parishes, the approval rates were only marginally affected, with 78% of post-Hurricane Melissa application being approved in the 90 days timeline, Madam Speaker, which I think is tremendous based on the circumstances. Between January and March this year, 137 applications valued at $68.8 billion was submitted. This is highly encouraging and positive news. The records show that this number of applications exceed the total application received for all quarters dating back to April-June quarter of 2023. This level of activity shows that the people are working quickly to rebuild critically. Also, it has been shown, Madam Speaker, that more people are applying for building permits to ensure that structural integrity of their projects. The most significant increase of 11% was in building applications for small residential development under 300 square meters in size. This signals strong activity to rebuild houses, small businesses, factories. 71% of the applications were approved within 90 days, and the investment value of these approvals stand at $36.1 billion, Madam Speaker, local government at work. The continued pace of development approval process is critical to the success of the reconstruction phase. This process is also tied to the duties of the municipal corporation as the local building authorities to improve enforcement of building standards through the building code, which will be rolled out in this financial year. A critical feature of the new building code is that buildings are to be constructed to withstand Category 5 hurricanes. There will be stronger enforcement powers for municipal corporations, mandatory compliance checks and stricter penalties for illegal construction, especially in high-risk zones, Madam Speaker. In respect, Madam Speaker, the enforcement capacity of the local authorities will be strengthened as the Ministry of Finance has given approval for the established structure of the municipal corporation, which will facilitate the employment of more building officers to strengthen their ability to monitor and to ensure that there is compliance. I want to emphasize that the reconstruction phase is not designed to restore what has been lost. It is to replace infrastructure with vastly modern, climate-smart structures that can dramatically improve the lives of every citizen. However, there is also the question of the responsibility of the local authorities and the fact that our national and local elected representatives, as well as the general public, must understand that this is not business as usual. And the practice where we build anywhere we feel, how we feel to build. Melissa have said to us that those days are over, and we must wake to the reality that we cannot and we should not continue to practice this level of building, because we will pay the price, and this government is not prepared to allow it to continue any longer. I'm therefore calling for practical and courageous and consensus amongst all concerns as we work towards changing living standards through the built environment. And I think this is a call that should be echoed by all Jamaicans to protect investment at any cost. The role of the National Solid Waste Management Authority in moving Jamaica from recovery to reconstruction phase has been essential. This agency was active on the ground immediately after the passage of the hurricane and was one of the first points of clearing towns, centers, roads, pathways, freeing maroon communities through the National Cleanup Program. I want to pay special tribute to the workers of the National Solid Waste Management Authority, whom had their homes damaged by the hurricane, who turned out nevertheless to provide service. And I want to thank the Ministry of Health and the leadership of the agency for providing counseling for those workers. In the rush to deal with the disaster, we sometimes forget the mental health impact on our frontline workers, and the sound and the smell of destruction and the death of nearly 50 of our fellow Jamaicans in the 5 worst hit parishes. Madam Speaker, these workers, while they were there, many of their homes were destroyed, and we want to salute them, and we will continue to offer the counseling that they need to get them through difficult period. The hurricane deposited over 4.8 million tons of debris across the southwestern part of the island alone. That is approximately 480,000 truckload of construction waste and household vegetation. 500 million was provided for the first phase of the National Cleanup Program. And within 2 months following the hurricane, by December 25, over 27,000 loads of debris was cleared. Another $1 billion was provided to finance phase 2 of the program, which ran from January to April of this year. Over 21,000 truckloads of debris was removed during this phase, amounting to a total of over 48,000 truckloads of waste removed. This intense program is still being implemented, Madam Speaker, And the 10 tipper trucks that the government purchased and put into service in December has been critical in clearing the debris in the 5 worst affected parishes by Melissa, and it has allowed the agency to use its regular fleet to do the regular job of garbage collection. So, Madam Speaker, the agency is working. They have learned lessons from Melissa and will put in place necessary steps to ensure that they can respond greater if and when we are confronted by a national disaster of the magnitude of Melissa. They continue to clear the backlog across the country this year. Additional work include repairs to 80 trucks will be done to shorten the waste collection schedule. The island is divided into 4,275 collection districts, and the intention is to ensure that the regular waste collection is done every 7 to 10 days right across the country. This is in addition to specific projects to collect 8,000 tons of bulky waste. In all of this, I am making a special appeal to our citizens to practice what the National Solid Waste Management is saying in terms of educating Jamaica in their daily life. Jamaica's beauty is our duty. The agency is targeting to collect 1.2 million tons of waste this year. It will be far easier to achieve this goal if illegal dumping and the throwing of garbage into our streets and our gullies are significantly reduced. And let me say this, I heard a member last week speaking about increasing the fines and doing all that is necessary. Yes, that is good. But the country needs to have a social call on the state of how we are disposing of garbage. And I'm using this presentation today to ask us to put aside our political differences and let us unite and campaign in making Jamaica a cleaner and a better country. Because if you on that side eventually by 2040 become the government, 2040, you will still have the garbage problems. We need to unite on this one. And I call on members, not just in the political arena, but right across Jamaica, for this consciousness of mind, for us to deal with the question of littering. Last year alone, the agency served over 2,000 anti-litter tickets. Over 9,000 removals were issued. It's a problem that we have, and it's a problem that we must deal with. And that is why the NSWMA has a special education program in this financial year at a cost of over $200 million that will be used to sensitize the country as it relates to our garbage problems. And I am hoping that we will get the buy-in of every member of this House. Madam Speaker, one of the flagship of this government is our social protection program. I spoke earlier about the selfish service that our first respondent has provided through Melissa and after. To this category of special people, I must add the Board of Supervision, the matrons, the staff, the poor relief officers and the inspectors who manage our infirmaries and golden age homes across the country. They put their personal worries aside and focus on the vulnerable citizens. Whenever residents are relocated to shelters or in place that they have to be cared for, I can say proudly that those infirmaries and Golden Age Home has done a great job in protecting those who are under their care. And I think the country should acknowledge and appreciate the work of our workers in the infirmaries and our Golden Age Home. And it is fair to say that during the passage of Melissa, not one residence in our infirmary or Golden Age Home sustained any injury during the passage of the hurricane. And I think that is something that we should be proud of. And during COVID-19, and I want to repeat it, none of our homes and infirmaries experienced any deaths during the COVID pandemic. And that is an outstanding achievement for a small country like Jamaica. So, Madam Speaker, we continue to put in the work within our infirmaries and to strengthen them and to make them a place that people will feel comfortable. We got approval to build 2 brand new infirmaries. The one in Trelawney was destroyed, and the one in St. Elizabeth is at a stage now where it is not possible based on the various issues. So we'll be building 2 infirmaries, 2 brand new infirmaries, one in Trelawney and one in St. Elizabeth, and then we'll be moving to build a 3rd one in the parish of St. Anne. That is the temporary location that will be housing the Trelawney Infirmary until we have constructed the new infirmary. This is our government at work taking care of the poor and destitute. Madam Speaker, we have also provided financial support to undertake works at the St. Elizabeth, Hanover, and Westmoreland Infirmary at a cost of $54 million. And to this point in time, Madam Speaker, we are doing as best as we can to ensure that we provide a safe place for these persons in our infirmaries. We have done upgrade work on the wards at the St. Thomas Infirmary. A new matron quarters was built in Hanover. A state-of-the-art kitchen and dining area was constructed at the St. James Infirmary to enhance meal services. Those works were carried out at a combined cost of $44.9 million. And the St. Catherine Infirmary, we opened a brand new therapeutic park and other facilities was built to enhance the quality of life of the residents. And I want to announce that this year, a new wing will be built at the Spanish Town Infirmary at a cost of 70 million Jamaican dollars. Work on building out the network of concrete indigent housing was curtailed by the hurricane. This year, we are providing $160 million to continue to build houses of quality and class for the infirmary. Never before in the history of Jamaica have we seen indigent houses of the quality like what this administration has built. The issue of our social cases at our hospitals has been a long-standing one. And this year a special effort will be made to address it in partnership with the Ministry of Health and Wellness. $200 million will be spent to increase the capacity in our care facility to free up bed space for the people with medical needs. I now turn to the matter of the homeless, which has taken a new meaning in the context of Hurricane Melissa. The Board of Supervision, in partnership with the SDC, completed a national survey on homelessness. In the last quarter of 2025, the findings that was provided, 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,000 2,0 2,261 persons were found to be homeless. 52.5% of that number is located here in the corporate area. This is very sad, Madam Speaker. And let me say this. It is not Jamaica alone, and I want to give some figures to show with a global pattern of homelessness, especially in urban centers. Homelessness is rising in countries across the world, whether they are classified as developed, underdeveloped, or developing countries. UN Habitat Report of 2026 indicates that there are 318 million homeless people living across the globe. The World Population Review on Homelessness shows that it has grown significantly in Latin America and the Caribbean, affecting an estimated 8 million people. It has grown by 125% in North America, affecting 1.7 million people. More than 1.2 million people are homeless in Western Europe. Asia is estimated to have over 80 million homeless people. On the African continent, it is estimated that there are about 54 million homeless people. Here in Jamaica, Madam Speaker, this administration continues to take measures to take care of our homeless citizens. Over the last decade, we have been building a growing number of drop-in shelters, night shelters, transitional shelters, to give the vulnerable Jamaicans security, space where they can shelter, where we provide nutritious food, medical care, and we also, Madam Speaker, in our shelters, provide employment for those who can work. And there are a number of persons who have been employed by the KSMAC, by the St. James Municipal Corporation. These are homeless people that we are taking care of. We're not only putting a roof over their head, but we are making them into worthwhile Jamaicans. Phase 2 of the Desmond Mackenzie Transitional Center for the Homeless was completed in the last financial year. A total capacity of 80 homeless persons can now be accommodated at the new wing. The extension of the St. Thomas Night Shelter was completed at a cost of $12 million. The Member of Parliament was there. The Portland Drop-In Center Night Shelter was completed at a cost of $55 million. The new Member of Parliament, I guess, must have visited and see the work of the Andrew Holness administration. This year, the former mayor of Kingston and the longest serving female mayor in this region, Mary Atkins, will be spending $55 million to renovate the Mary Atkins shelter in downtown Kingston for the homeless population. As we build more infrastructure, our homeless population, Madam Speaker, will be protected. I appeal for a greater sense of compassion and civic concern. I am disturbed by the latest incident of violence against homeless people. The last major one was in St. Mary some 2 months ago when a homeless man was stabbed and had to be rushed to the Kingston Hospital. Let me say to my fellow Jamaicans, let us have compassion and care for these people. They are fellow Jamaicans just like all of us. This House will recall that last year I indicated that Cabinet approved His Excellency the Governor General would be asked to declare May 20th of each year a National Day of Remembrance for victims of the Evening Tide Home fire. It was a commitment I made to this House. And the first official service to mark that ugly event took place under 2 weeks ago at the National Heroes Park, where 26 coffins bearing the remains of 157 women who perished in the fire were interred. We preserve their memory. This incident was a stain on the pages of our modern history in this country. And we should never, again, the public conscience of this country should rise up and ensure that this never, ever happen again. And you know, Madam Speaker, I don't want to get political, but when this government talk about protecting the interests of the poor and the destitute, we know what we are talking about. We have never hired dumper trucks and put street people in them and just dump them in mud lake. We have never done that. We provide facilities. We take care of these people. And we can stand proud. We can stand proud on our record of protecting the poor and the destitute in this country. Madam Speaker, the Jamaica Fire Brigade continue to reward the country, the citizens of Jamaica, for the investment that has been made, introducing cutting-edge projects to sharply improve service delivery. Vital agencies will also be affected by Melissa. 6 fire stations was damaged. And I'm pleased to announce, and I see the Mayor of Montego Bay here, that the fire station in Ironshore will be rebuilt under the reconstruction of this government. So, we, Madam Speaker, in this administration, continue to work to improve the service of the Jamaica Fire Brigade. The estimated cost to build the infrastructure and to replace lost equipment is just over $1.4 billion. I am pleased to announce that while 311 firefighters were operating in 9 parishes that were directly affected by the hurricane, no lives were lost and none of our firefighters were injured. And we thank God for that. And they carried out their duty in a very efficient way. They responded to 1,661 calls between October 28 and December 12, 2025 that were linked to Hurricane Melissa. These included 615 fire calls, 116 medical emergency calls, 864 special service calls. The special service calls range from clearing block roads, rescuing residents that are trapped in communities, delivering potable water, power washing muds and silt from town centers. Madam Speaker, our country is proud of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, and I want to thank the men and the women of the Jamaica Fire Brigade for the hard work that they have been doing and will continue to do to help to rebuild back Jamaica bigger, better, and stronger, Madam Speaker. In addition to the rehabilitation of stations and the completion of current projects, the works are far advanced to ensure that every fire station can give 24-hour service by the use of generators. 95% of our island fire stations now have generators, and we have acquired 4 more in the last financial year at a cost of $33 million, and 2 more will be installed this year, Madam Speaker. So by the end of the current financial year, all fire stations in Jamaica will be equipped. It is happening for the first time under this administration. When we came in 2016, none of our fire stations had any generator. It is this administration that has done it. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. There's also additional, there's also additional firefighters to operate fire stations. I have the pleasure, Madam Speaker, of participating last month in the graduation exercise of another 100 trainees in the third quarter of this financial year. The brigade will enhance its role in the national reconstruction phase as a major factor in the development approval process. It is working in regulating the built environment and to essentially ensure that this country will have the full service to respond to disaster such as hurricane and earthquake. Last year, the brigade inspected 11,228 buildings to ensure compliance with fire safety codes and standards. The inspection process will be one of unprecedented importance. And the reason why I say that, it is a vital component of the duties of the local authorities. They work closely with the Jamaica Fire Brigade to ensure that the Building Act as well as the Building Code are obeyed. The brigade work in the approval process includes comprehensive assessment of building plans, and the agency have reviewed over 916 plans last year. The brigade is now at a prominent part of the government's creation of a new Jamaica, where we can rely on them to ensure that the built environment, that the public becomes a part of what we are doing. The public infrastructure, and I want to say also the private infrastructure, even before the start of construction. Because we are building, I know, we are building more buildings. I want to remind the country that the input of the Jamaica Fire Brigade in the building approval process is something that we cannot bypass. Their input is important, and I want the country to be aware of that. Okay? Look, I will address you shortly. So, Madam Speaker, I don't want to be thrown off time. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say that the role of the Jamaica Fire Brigade is critical. And we are a part of the reconstruction of Jamaica, has been announced by the Most Honorable Prime Minister to rebuild the country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Social Development Commission continues to show great achievement. And I must say that this was one public body, one agency that never get a cent from government before. This administration was the first administration in 2016 to provide funding to the Social Development Commission to undertake its responsibility right across the country. 0%, 0 in the budget. 0 in the budget. 0 in the budget. 0 in the budget. Today, the agency has been transformed into a national organization, well-programmed. The comprehensive research and expertise of the agency was critical in helping local and central government to make rapid, evidence-based decisions in the support of the national reconstruction. These include a national drainage assessment survey, temporary accommodation, in which damage assessments were done and potential sites were identified for erecting temporary accommodation. The agency conducted shelter transitional survey on children and others. In keeping with the ministry's effort to reduce the number of schools used as shelters, the SDC has completed a community center shelter review survey to ascertain the existing shelters across the country. They are also responsible in undertaking a market survey. One of the critical things that the SDC did, they conducted a comprehensive survey of the public perception on the One Road Authority. On the One Road Authority. It is interesting to note that the survey that was conducted on the One Road Authority showed that over 75% of Jamaicans, when they ask which road you want to be fixed, they want major roads and parochial roads to be fixed. 59% of Jamaicans agree with the One Road Authority. 59% of Jamaicans. I'm going to give you a copy of the survey. So, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, the One Road Authority will help to lift the standard. All mayors, every single mayor in Jamaica, was invited to a meeting at the Ministry of Local Government with the minister, my colleague minister. Over 4 hours, presentations were made. All of the mayors asked questions, one meeting. Yes. All the mayors were present. And let me say,
Minister Mackenzie, though you have not asked for my protection, let me caution you, using your valuable time to answer the questions from the floor, reduces your time for presentation. No. I'm giving him that time back. I love that part of the presentation. So I thank him for assisting with my opening statement. So, Minister, yes, you may take a water break and then we will recommence.
Water break. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to now move to another important aspect of the SDC's work, Madam Speaker. The SDC, Madam Speaker, has been placed in a position where the security of the workers are no guaranteed. The SDC, Madam Speaker, for decades was operating with peer contract workers. So there was no security for the workers. I am pleased to announce that under this administration, the SDC has now been given a proper structure where the job security of the workers are now secured. We are putting the SDC on a level to continue the work that it is doing through the programs to provide support in the entrepreneurial programs, providing grants, building out communities, expanding programs, and community centers included. And I know that there are members on that side, if they wish to speak the truth, can speak glowingly about the work that the SDC has been doing in their constituency. Right? So, Madam Speaker, I want to emphasize that we have strengthened the SDC and we have made it into an organization that Jamaica is proud of, and we want to support them to continue the work that they have been doing. Madam Speaker, I want now to turn to one aspect of the work that the SDC undertook, and that was the church restoration program. And I am very happy that we were able to commence the first phase in St. Elizabeth, and I'll be in Hanover on Friday for the second phase of the church restoration program. I want to conclude this presentation, Madam Speaker. The administration, no, Westmoreland is down. Westmoreland is down. The administration responding to the climatic crisis of Melissa by the reconstruction of Jamaica into a different and a far better country. That is what is before us today. The process will be strongly speed up as the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act. We will be building back better and stronger. Madam Speaker, the local authorities have no fear about the bill that has been tabled, Madam Speaker. We are an integral part of it. We will play a critical role, Madam Speaker, in the reconstruction. I want to say to the mayors who I did not acknowledge earlier on, that your role will not be undermined in the reconstruction. So anybody telling you anything else, and mischief them and make, everybody will be a critical player in the reconstruction of Jamaica, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, our markets will be built back. The center of commerce, Madam Speaker. Last year, I spoke about the Alexandria market. Work is now on its way to rebuild the Alexandria market at a cost of $50 million. Work is on its way, Madam Speaker. We've spent $70 million in refurbishing the Yallas market, the Charles Garden market in St. James, the Savlabar market in Westmoreland, the Musgrave market, and the Highgate market, and the Black River market to be given priority under the program of rebuilding, Madam Speaker. The government is living up to its commitment. Yes. On the question of the streetlights, I want to indicate the special program that I announced last year was set back by the passage of Melissa. I have been given the assurance by the Jamaica Public Service Company that as soon as they have completed the restoration, they will start the installation over the next 2 financial years of the street lights that was committed last year. Right. Yeah, new and improved lights. I also want to mention, Madam Speaker, to publicly thank our shelter managers and disaster coordinators who worked so hard during Melissa. I want to express the gratitude to those persons who use our shelters. Firstly, for heeding the call and move to the safety. And for secondly, for the patience and cooperation that was the general atmosphere at all of our shelters, Madam Speaker. I know it was a stressful time. I also want to give a brief update on the accommodation being built in Shrewsbury in Westmoreland. 10 of the 16 concrete bases have been completed. Those bases are required for the completion of the houses. All the necessary things is being done to facilitate. As soon as it is completed, the houses are in the care of the Minister with responsibility for housing and economic growth and the Jamaica Defence Force. As soon as that is completed, Madam Speaker, those houses will be moved to the location, and all the persons who have been registered, who we know will occupy the new housing facilities that is provided by the government, Madam Speaker. This, Madam Speaker, will tell you that we are working diligently to ensure that we do everything that is necessary. The shelters, Madam Speaker, we are working closely with the municipal corporations and the Office of Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management. An additional $60 million will be set aside to the local authorities to assist in obtaining blankets and cots and other bedding materials to make life more comfortable in our shelters. This is the first allocation that will be made as we get ready for the hurricane season that is here with us. In addition to this, we are taking a different approach to shelter management. Instead of using multiple venues, we are looking, and based on the discussion, to build shelters in at least 3 parishes that can accommodate a large number of Jamaicans. In Westmoreland, purpose-based shelters that can be used for community facilities, netball, basketball, town hall meetings. And when the time comes, we move persons to these facilities. We're looking at the parishes of Westmoreland, Clarendon, St. Anne, and we're looking also at St. Thomas to roll out, at least in the first phase of these, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, we are moving. One of the things, again, that we are going to be doing based on the Prime Minister's directive, that we must become proactive. Programs that will educate persons around the dangers, drilling exercise, and to do proper assessment. We are going to be employing 200 young Jamaicans that will be deployed to the SDC and the municipal corporation starting the 1st of July. They will work for the entire hurricane season. They will be deployed to work with disaster coordinators across the municipality in strengthening the disaster response capabilities. And I hope, Madam Speaker, that this will go a far way. So 200 young Jamaicans will benefit from this over the next 6 months, working in the areas of disaster. So the chairman of the National Disaster Risk Management Council spoke about the various things that needs to be done. And the government is fast-tracking these operations. Yesterday, I launched Operation Calm in St. Elizabeth, National Solid Waste Management Authority, to remove bulky waste from various communities. 5 parishes will benefit from Calm. 5, 96 communities. Okay? Calm. C means clearing flood-prone areas of bulky waste. A, it's for advising the residents in these areas about their roles and responsibilities in managing waste during the hurricane season. L, leveraging the network of community leaders in flood-prone communities. And M, maintaining a presence in these communities during the hurricane season. It was launched yesterday. This is a good program. And already the people in Rocky Point supported this program tremendously. And we're moving to the parishes of Clarendon, Kingston, St. Andrews, St. James, and St. Elizabeth with the next phase of this program. We are combining government action to promote civic responsibility, community goodwill, to ensure that the people in these communities who can face hurricane season with a level of confidence instead of fear and uncertainty. We are also will be implementing a special drain cleaning program. Madam Speaker, $70 million will be provided to the municipal corporation, $300,000 to each division for drain cleaning. In addition, Madam Speaker, in addition to the 2 months PRF allocation that they have that is dedicated for drain cleaning. Okay? 2 months allocation for drain cleaning. And this is in the first phase of the drain cleaning exercise, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we also will be rolling out another additional program, road program, to supplement the monthly, no, they have no name, it's a program, the monthly PRF. The monthly PRF that the MCs get. And let me say this. Every month, the municipal corporation, every month, close to 700 million is provided to the municipal corporation for road maintenance. Every month, over 700 million. This $350 million that will be provided, Madam Speaker, will supplement the work, because we know after the hurricane, a lot of damage has been done, and this $350 million will be provided to assist for road patching and road maintenance right across the country, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the question of water is a major problem. As we continue to manage the hurricane, the Ministry of Water and the Ministry of Local Government, we had a meeting last week at the Ministry to discuss the question of water. Shortly, we will be announcing a comprehensive water program involving the Ministry of Water and Local Government. But in the meantime, Madam Speaker, the drought is upon us, and we are going to be providing $65 million to assist St. Elizabeth, Manchester, and Portland to purchase 3 brand new water trucks to take us through this critical period. Local government is not only contributing to the national reconstruction through infrastructure, it is also doing it by historically new standards of service delivery. And Madam Speaker, I need to speak to this one because the country needs to know this one. The Jamaica Fire Brigade, Madam Speaker, will officially launch the emergency communication-based system in Waterford in St. Catherine. 24 firefighters were specially trained and graduated as emergency telecom operators in February of this year. The key feature of this is the system will alert and transmit emergency notification instantly. Madam Speaker, if you make a call within 64 seconds, that information will be transmitted instantly to the relevant fire stations, and the firefighters will be there in 60 seconds. This is a new initiative, Madam Speaker, and I am urging the country for that. So I can take my time. Okay. This groundbreaking project is being implemented in all phases, at all fire stations across Kingston and St. Andrew. Part 1 of the program is now active. These are the most parishes that poses problems in terms of emergency calls and are highly populated communities, Madam Speaker. The Jamaica Fire Brigade has entered a new era of professionalism, technology. The readiness is to transform the Fire Brigade into an organization that is contributing to the build back of Jamaica by this administration led by Dr. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister. So finally, Madam Speaker, as I close, I want to conclude the presentation, Madam Speaker, with a reflection of the book of Nehemiah. It tells the story of the rebuilding of Jerusalem wall. And I believe that this mirrors our experience here. As we rebuild Jamaica, Nehemiah chapter 1 through 4 is about the destruction of the walls surrounding Jerusalem, which is like the destruction of Melissa, with the people left exposed. Then Nehemiah led the work of inspiring the people to help to rebuild the wall. A huge project. Just as our Prime Minister continues to secure goodwill to rebuild Jamaica. Then when you read further into Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 9, it tells you about the people who try to undermine and to prevent the reconstruction work from starting. Chapter 3 and 4 reveal how construction was organized. And I think about the National Resilience Authority. When you get to chapter 6, it says, a new wall of Jerusalem was built in 52 days. A historic achievement at the time. The book of Nehemiah is my biblical inspiration for what we are working to achieve. Reconstruction of Jamaica in record time that will benefit all the citizens and the wonder of the world for years to come. The administration, therefore, viewed the destruction of Melissa as a call to action. It is a call to reconstruct, not just to replace, a call to transform. This is not just to restore, Madam Speaker. We are heeding the call. The vision for the grand design has been laid out by our national builder, the Most Honorable Prime Minister. We continue to experience sincere goodwill and to receive practical assistance from countless partners here and overseas. Despite our challenges, we remain a blessed country. And I know that the Almighty will bless our efforts. Amen. And the praises of this administration will sing in the hearts of the minds of Jamaicans for decades. History will record this administration as the administration that has done the job. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the Minister of Local Government, Community Development and Member of Parliament for West Kingston, the Honourable Desmond Mackenzie, for a very substantive presentation. We will now go to the Member of Parliament for Manchester Southern, Mr. Peter Bunting, for his sectoral presentation.
You are okay to go, Ms. Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And feeling certain that I will not be treated as liberally with time as the Minister of Local Government, let me move quickly to thank my leader and colleagues, family and friends, personal support team, councillors and constituency executive, and last but not least, the proud citizens of Southern Manchester who allow me to stand here today. I rise today to address a portfolio that goes to the very heart of Jamaica's economic future, yet one that receives far less attention than it deserves. In budget and sectoral debates, in corporate boardrooms and public policy discussions, we regularly hear the words productivity, efficiency, and competitiveness invoked as though they are interchangeable concepts. For clarity, let me define what each means today for the purposes of my presentation. Productivity is the rate at which an economy converts labor, capital, technology, and knowledge into output. Efficiency refers to the extent to which waste is eliminated from that process. And competitiveness is the ability of firms, industries, and countries to succeed against rivals in attracting investment, creating jobs, and winning export markets. Jamaica's central economic challenge today is no longer macroeconomic stability. Through years of sacrifice by taxpayers, public sector workers, pensioners, and businesses, Jamaica succeeded in restoring a measure of fiscal discipline and financial stability. Debt to GDP ratios have fallen significantly. Inflation has, generally speaking, remained within the target range. International reserves have strengthened. These achievements were important and necessary. That's why the PNP administration, led by the most Honourable Portia Simpson-Miller, started the process of economic reform. And we did most of the heavy lifting in achieving the successes of the last 14 years. But stability was never intended to be the destination. It was the foundation upon which growth, productivity, and the elusive prosperity could be built. Unfortunately, that transformation has not occurred. If you look at the chart on the screen, it's real GDP growth since 1980. Jamaica's long-term economic growth remains among the weakest in the developing world. Real GDP growth has averaged approximately 1% per annum over several decades. Labor productivity has declined. Foreign direct investment inflows have fallen sharply from their previous highs. Gross fixed capital formation has weakened. Real wages remain under pressure. For too many of our brightest and best, for too long, too many of our brightest and best have had to leave our shores in search of opportunities elsewhere. In short, we have stabilized the economy without transforming it. The IMF, the World Bank, and the OECD have all reached broadly similar conclusions regarding the drivers of sustained economic growth. Countries that prosper over long periods do so because they continuously improve productivity, strengthen institutions, invest in human capital, encourage innovation, and create an environment in which businesses can compete and grow. Countries that fail to improve productivity eventually encounter a ceiling beyond which growth becomes difficult. Wages stagnate and economic opportunities diminish. That is precisely where Jamaica is today. My colleague MP from Manchester, Minister Marks, in her sectoral presentation, cited increased numbers of online transactions, electronic payments, and digital government services as evidence of progress. And while these developments are welcome, I would say, Minister, activity should not be confused with productivity. Yes. Many Jamaican businesses continue to encounter duplicated reporting requirements, fragmented government systems, and lengthy approval processes. Only last week, we heard that more than 70% of transactions in Jamaica are still cash-based, something you would appreciate. Jamdex adoption, Jamdex, the central bank digital currency, Jamdex adoption remains negligible, despite significant effort by Bank of Jamaica. Interbank payment systems continue to operate within constraints that reflected the old manual processing days at banks. The BOJ's RTGS, which stands for Real-Time Gross Settlement, operates from 8:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m., 25% of the day. Automated clearinghouse, which is the bank clearing system, is still next day payment. This is not appropriate for the needs of a modern 24/7 economy. So my point is straightforward. Technology is an enabler, but not a substitute for reform. Moving bureaucracy from a counter to a screen is still bureaucracy. It's just digital bureaucracy. Productivity gains arise when processes are fundamentally redesigned. Responsibilities are clarified. Duplication is eliminated and institutions become more responsive. Technology can facilitate that transformation, but it cannot replace it. If there is one statistic that should concern every member of this House, it is the performance of Jamaica's labor productivity over the last quarter century. That blue line that's trending from left to right and goes almost to the horizontal axis is Jamaica's labor productivity measured by real GDP per worker over the last 25 years. An entire generation has grown up in an environment of declining productivity. During the same period, labor productivity in the United States increased by approximately 50%. China, of course, is the star. You have to use the axis, the vertical axis on the right for their index. Their labor productivity increased by more than 400% over that period. But closer to home, countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, with which Jamaica competes more directly for investment and achieved substantially stronger outcomes. But economists often focus on total factor productivity, which measures the efficiency with which not only labor, but capital, technology, and organizational systems are combined. It captures innovation, management quality, institutional effectiveness, technological adoption, and the allocation of resources throughout the economy. In successful economies, growth in TFP accounts for a significant share of long-term economic growth. In Jamaica, it has remained weak for decades. What the graph shows, and 2021 is the base year, is that for our entire history, since independence, Jamaica allocated and combined resources more efficiently than it is doing currently. This is not a productivity challenge, it is a national emergency. Thank you. Well, I must say this is our first Prime Minister. This is our first. But you would understand, and the ministers that flank you, that this matters profoundly. Because productivity growth is not simply another economic indicator. It is a primary source of long-term improvements in living standards. Nobel laureate Paul Krugman famously observed that, and I quote, "Productivity is not everything, but in the long run, it is almost everything." End quote. Workers cannot sustainably earn more than the value they produce. Governments cannot sustainably spend more than the economy generates. Please do. Businesses cannot sustainably raise wages unless productivity rises. Mr. Speaker, I'm reclaiming my time. If productivity is the engine of economic growth, then human capital is the fuel that powers it. No country has achieved sustained productivity growth without simultaneously improving the skills, capabilities, and adaptability of its workforce. Jamaica faces a significant challenge in this regard. A recent, I believe last week, newspaper article quoted UTEC's president reiterating that of the approximately 30,000 students who sit CSEC exams annually, only about 6,000 or 20% achieve the minimum qualifications generally required for tertiary education. He said UTEC alone could take half of those students, and there are 14 other universities and colleges competing for that 6,000. This means that 4 out of every 5 students leave secondary school without the credentials needed to fully participate in a modern knowledge economy. The education system continues to fail the majority of our students and needs to be fixed. However, the economic implications of this reality extend far beyond the education sector. Employers consistently report shortages of workers with adequate literacy, numeracy, technical and digital skills, even while hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans remain outside the workforce. The challenge becomes more urgent when viewed against the backdrop of artificial intelligence. The IMF estimates that approximately 40% of jobs globally will be affected by AI. Routine and repetitive tasks are increasingly susceptible to automation, while demand is growing for workers capable of exercising judgment, creativity, adaptability, and complex problem solving. These developments have serious implications, for example, for our BPO sector, which is said to employ 50,000 Jamaicans directly, but I suspect that figure is shrinking. The sector, back in the day, generated employment opportunities and transformed local economies like Mandeville's. When we struggled to recover from the closure of the Kirkvine and Alpart alumina plants. However, many of the functions currently performed in customer service centers and back office operations are precisely the types of activities most vulnerable to automation. My information is that one of the largest companies operating in the BPO sector has already cut its workforce by almost 50%. The Prime Minister, in his budget presentation, identified the low workforce productivity challenge. However, he came with his administration's standard response: new acronyms. Since yesterday, we've heard of NEST, GRIFT, and CALM. GRIFT would be more appropriate. NEST, GRIFT, and CALM. But in that budget speech, the Prime Minister had already introduced NARA, JAMROC, and FAST. But then the PM continued, and I quote, starting in this financial year, HART will introduce a pilot of LEAP. LEAP is the acronym for Learn, Earn, and Prosper. And he went on to say, and we will expand CARE, the community action for rewarding engagement. So, Prime Minister, I acknowledge you have identified the challenge, but I don't agree with your solution to introduce a pilot of LEAP this year. Imagine, Prime Minister, the results of that pilot will probably be evaluated next year. And if it's positive, then maybe LEAP will be widely implemented in year 3. HART is a training institution whose curriculum evolves on a multi-year cycle in an environment where the relevant AI-driven technology changes every few months. This reality demands a fundamental rethink of workforce development policy. HART has made important contributions to Jamaica's development, but it was designed for a different era. The pace of technological change now requires continuous workforce adaptation. The opposition has stated repeatedly that the time has come to transform HART into a workforce development funding institution rather than attempting to deliver training directly in every field. HART should increasingly support employer-driven training initiatives, matching private sector investments in workforce development and allowing workers access to accredited training providers. Such a model would ensure that training resources are aligned with actual labor market demand and not institutional assumptions about future labor demand. We must move from labor supply to talent supply. The winners over the next decade will be the countries that transform their workforce the fastest. Now I want to turn to the impact on tax policy on the entrepreneurial economy. The chart on the screen shows graphs of tax revenue, the lower blue line, and the other line above is the more comprehensive measure of revenue and grants that covers what the government extracts from taxpayers in fees, fines, levies, etc., in addition to taxes. That upper line has fluctuated between 27 to 31% of GDP over the last 10 years. This is higher than the average for Latin America and the Caribbean, which hovers around 21 to 22% of GDP, and much higher than the world average of 16 to 17% of GDP. In fact, it's really only the OECD countries that are above us, and we know the sort of welfare services and social services that they deliver. The majority of Jamaican firms surveyed find tax rates to be a major or severe obstacle to their operations. Equitable growth will only occur when thousands of individuals invest capital, take risks, and create opportunities. The overwhelming majority of Jamaican businesses are micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. They represent the backbone of employment, entrepreneurship, and innovation. Economic growth does not emerge solely from large corporations or government programs. Yet this government's policy appears designed around the needs of only those large firms while imposing additional burdens on smaller enterprises. The recent decision to impose GCT of 15% on the revenues of short-term rental accommodation is a prime example. The sector has been a success story, growing rapidly from 60,000 guests in 2017 to over 800,000 in 2024. The short-term rental sector has democratized participation in the ownership of the accommodation sector. It has enabled thousands of Jamaicans all over, in Arnett Gardens, in Rockfort, in different parts of Jamaica, in Manchester, in Hanover, to become tourism entrepreneurs. Unlike the dominant enclave tourism model, a greater share of that dollar remains within the local communities. Property owners, maintenance providers, transportation operators, restaurants, and local suppliers all benefit from stronger linkages to the domestic economy. Yet instead of encouraging this emerging growth sector, the GLP administration has chosen in Nicodemus fashion to respond with additional taxation in the depths of the night. Any justification that the move is a necessary measure to level the playing field in the accommodation sector is just plain poppycock. Large hotel investments in Jamaica qualify for substantial benefits under the Omnibus Incentives Act and the tourism sector framework. These huge multinationals enjoy significantly reduced corporate income taxes, productive input reliefs on equipment and construction materials, employment tax credits, and favorable capital write-offs for building expenditures. They also benefit from the Tourist Board's cooperative marketing and advertising frameworks that help large hotel investments scale their occupancy and reach. None of these incentives are available to the short-term rental sector that is still liable for income tax and earnings in their standard rate. This is the type of behavior that has prompted progressive leaders in the Caribbean and elsewhere to recently warn, and I quote, not to replace sugar plantations with hotel plantations, end of quote. A rebranded plantation economy built around leisure instead of sugar is still a plantation economy. We don't want an economy where the average Jamaican can only aspire to be a worker, not an owner in his own country. So this is not a debate about taxation alone. It is a debate about ownership. Jamaica's objective should not be an economy in which our citizens can only aspire to serve in the tourism sector. It should be an economy in which we can own a part of the tourism sector. Another example of bad tax policy comes from a point I made in the 2018 sectoral debate. It's worth repeating at this time when geopolitical tensions have sent fuel prices skyrocketing and the pass-through inflation now threatens our country. still struggling to recover from Hurricane Melissa, with the prospect of increased interest rates to battle this pass-through inflation. These high fuel prices will provide a tax windfall for the government because of the ad valorem SCT on fuel. I say now is the time to give both businesses and consumers some badly needed relief. I support calls to cap the ad valorem SCT on fuel, but I go further and call on government to eliminate SCT on fuels altogether and instead include fuels in the base of GCT. This would reduce the burden of cumulative taxation on registered taxpayers and thus improve economic efficiency. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to turn to the matter, to a section that I call institutions and bureaucracy matter. One of the most damaging taxes in Jamaica is one that never appears on an invoice. It is the tax imposed by bureaucracy. Every entrepreneur experiences it. It is paid in delays, uncertainty, duplicated paperwork, and lost opportunities. Economists describe these burdens as transaction costs. In successful economies, institutions are designed to minimize them. In Jamaica, too many institutions continue to generate them. The result is lower investment, slower business formation, and weaker productivity growth. But productivity, and I want you to listen to me carefully, productivity is not solely an economic issue. It is also a governance issue. The most productive economies in the world are characterized by strong institutions, predictable rules, and high levels of public trust. Investors do not simply evaluate tax rates or labor costs. They assess whether contracts are enforceable, regulations are predictable, and institutions operate fairly. Recent controversies involving the treatment of independent oversight institutions should concern anyone interested in Jamaica's competitiveness. These controversies include the NARA Act, which many see as a naked power grab by the Prime Minister, giving the agency and the PM sweeping executive powers with a lack of institutional guardrails and the ability to bypass traditional regulatory oversight. A few years ago, the PM overruled NEPA and granted a permit to mine in the ecologically sensitive Dry Harbor Mountains. The Constitutional Court, in a recent landmark ruling, declared the permit and the PM's decision, I quote, unconstitutional, void, and of no effect, end quote. The Prime Minister, and I go on to a third example of these controversies. The Prime Minister, in an unprecedented move for a sitting Prime Minister, took his own state oversight body, the Integrity Commission, to the Supreme Court. He filed over 20 applications seeking to nullify the IC's investigative report and challenge the constitutionality of the core provisions within the Integrity Commission Act that his government passed. The fourth example is the oversight, is Parliament's own oversight of the executive, which is being systematically undermined. Yes. Presiding officers have abandoned any pretense of impartiality. Yes. And the 3-month delay in tabling the recent IC investigative report on the FLA is one example. Ministers sitting on parliamentary oversight committees, such as the PAC, are examining AG's reports for periods covering their own stewardship, which is crazy, even where there are allegations of improper ministerial interference. government members on the PAC and PAC appear to do everything to obstruct the work of the committees. Even yesterday, with the email system not working, there was a sheet that went around asking who had received the email from the committee clerk of the PAC's annual report. Every opposition member confirmed receipt of the email, and every government member denied receiving it. This is from their own parliament. Independent media is also plays also a critical oversight role in democracies. In Jamaica, our remaining independent media houses and investigative journalists are barely surviving. They're in the intensive care unit. There is an acute viability crisis for legacy print and broadcast organizations worldwide, and Jamaica is no different. Many close or merge, while others survive only as propaganda outlets for wealthy oligarchs or authoritarian governments. Given what is happening with our oversight institutions, and I draw your attention to the chart, given what is happening with our oversight institutions, it should not be surprising that net foreign direct investment inflows as a percent of GDP have declined to between 1.5% and 2% since 2020. This is less than a third of what we received as recently as 2015 and 2016, when net FDI exceeded 6% of GDP. Investors value certainty. Entrepreneurs value predictability. Businesses make long-term commitments when they believe that rules will be applied consistently and institutions will operate independently. Yes. Strong institutions encourage investment because they reduce uncertainty. Weak institutions discourage investment because individuals and businesses must devote additional resources to navigating risk and unpredictability. Productivity, therefore, depends not only on economic policy, but also on governance quality. Yes. So, Madam Speaker, in conclusion, the story of the last 14 years was stability. The story of the next decade must be transformation. Jamaica does not suffer from a shortage of talent, nor does it suffer from a shortage of ambition. Jamaica doesn't suffer from a shortage of entrepreneurial spirit. What Jamaica suffers from is a shortage of systems that allow our people to realize their full potential. The Jamaican worker is not the problem. The Jamaican entrepreneur is not the problem. The Jamaican student is not the problem. The problem is that too often we ask our people to compete globally while forcing to operate inside systems that belong in the past. Stability was the foundation. Transformation must now be the mission. Productivity must be the pathway if we are to reach that elusive destination of prosperity. And that is the Jamaica our people deserve. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You have lifted the bar.
Are you at last one? There's my...
Oh, there's a competition going on.
House Leader.
Yes. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I want to thank the member from Manchester Southern, Mr. Bunting, for his very data-focused presentation. We'll now have the Member of Parliament from St. Elizabeth North Eastern, Ms. Jalika Jess, who will now join us for her presentation.
You're getting there. Slowly, you're getting there.
Permission to speak from a seat.
You may go ahead, Member Jess.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Permission to speak from a...
Permission granted.
Permission to speak from a seat that is
No,
not my
I said
own.
permission granted.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I rise to make my maiden contribution to this sectoral debate, I must start by thanking God for his guidance and grace. I wish to thank the Leader of the Opposition, Mark Golding, for the confidence he has placed in me to shadow the critical portfolio of justice. Even though I must confess that at first I wasn't sure if it was a promotion or punishment. Either way, I promise to defend justice fiercely. I come to this role in my 15th year as a senior attorney with diverse experience and perspectives. I wish to thank my incredible hardworking team on the ground, led by my councillors, Councillor Everton Fisher, Caretaker Maurice Nemard, but particularly, Madam Speaker, Councillors Champion Myers and Donovan Pagan, who have been my shield and my protector. I wish to thank my phenomenal family in Northeastern St. Elizabeth. Thank you for saying yes to Jess and a young fresh face. I promise to represent your voices stridently, even if some of the phone calls I receive are about asking me to personally help you to find a wife. Or to personally reimburse you for the damage done to your vehicle by the potholes along Santa Cruz. To my friends and long-suffering family, thank you for putting up with my long days and late nights on the political battlefield. You are my anchor and my sanity. Madam Speaker, this maiden presentation is not mine alone. It belongs to the people of Northeastern St. Elizabeth and to every Jamaican demanding a fair, transparent, and accessible justice system. I am deeply honored to speak on their behalf today. But we cannot speak about a fair and accessible justice system when the physical infrastructure of our courts is an absolute disgrace. 7 months after Hurricane Melissa, the justice system in St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland isn't recovering. It is battering for life. So today, I must speak on behalf of the judges, the court staff, the attorneys, and the thousands of ordinary Jamaicans who are being forced to search for justice in ruins. Madam Speaker, let us look at the proud parish of St. Elizabeth, from which I now hail, the historic Black River Courthouse was battered by Hurricane Melissa. And what was this ministry's brilliant emergency plan? To cram the displaced staff into the Santa Cruz Courthouse, which was never designed to carry this capacity. Go to Santa Cruz right now, Madam Speaker. The conditions are utterly degrading. In January of this year, court staff were driven to fury because they were being forced to work in a building with no running water, no water for sanitation, no water for dignity. How can this administration boast of a modern justice system when our court workers cannot even wash their hands? Under this government, Madam Speaker, the wheels of justice aren't just turning slowly, they are grinding to a dirty halt. But the lack of water isn't even the worst part. The security infrastructure under this administration has completely collapsed. Just months ago in Santa Cruz, it was reported in the news that a member of the public barged straight into the court office and grabbed a box of legal files. It took the court staff themselves, who are ordinary workers, not trained security personnel, to physically fight off the intruder and knock the files from his hands. This happened at the Santa Cruz Courthouse in January of this year. But let us move on down the road, Madam Speaker, to Westmoreland. The Westmoreland Parish Court is out of commission. Initially, the minister boldly declared in November 2025 that the resources were available and that they were looking to secure a contractor under emergency procurement to restore the courthouse in the shortest possible time. But a few moments later, what do we hear, Madam Speaker? Now the minister says it will be too costly to repair. A total shameless flip-flop. Madam Speaker, the minister's assurances carry no weight. First, the money was there to do the repair. Now the building cannot be repaired. This isn't governance. It is pure double talk designed to hide delay and incompetence. They are talking in circles to hide the fact that they are dropping the ball and the people need justice. In light of the fact that the Westmoreland Parish Court is compromised, ordinary citizens are now forced to cross parish lines into Hanover to access the circuit court all the way in Lucy. Madam Speaker, think of the staggering economic punishment. Madam Speaker, think of the staggering economic punishment this inflicts on the people of Westmoreland. Madam Speaker, I see that those on the government aisle do not wish for me to speak the truth today, but we are going to talk about justice. Think of the astronomical expense for jurors, for litigants, for lawyers who must find transportation and meals just to travel back and forth to Lucy day after day because there is no court in Westmoreland to accommodate circuit. Madam Speaker, this government has turned the right to a fair trial into an endurance trek. Madam Speaker, they can howl all they want, but until they fix the justice crisis in the West, we will speak about this in the halls of this Parliament. This ministry has turned the right to a fair trial into an endurance trek. This is not administering justice. This is navigating an obstacle course. The Minister of Justice speaks about first-class justice system and modernization of the justice system, but I challenge the minister today, leave your air-conditioned office in Kingston, come down to Santa Cruz, come down to Westmoreland, work in a port where there is no running water, pay the taxi fare from Lucy, pay the taxi fare from Savlamar to Lucy, and tell the people why they should tolerate this injustice. Madam, thank God for the late, great Roger Clark's legacy. Madam Speaker, but Madam Speaker, don't take my word for it. The Chief Justice himself stated that this ministry is an unreliable partner. This statement was made after it was revealed that the judiciary had to use its own budget to carry out emergency court repairs in Western Jamaica to give judges a place to work. When the courts have to stop focusing on clearing backlogs and instead start acting like building contractors just to put a roof over a judge's head, that is not a success story. It is a total system failure, and the people need justice. Madam Speaker, there is no context in the world that would make the words unreliable partner sound good when they come from the head of the judiciary. Those words aren't opposition talking points. That is a direct, unprecedented indictment from Chief Justice Brian Sykes. When the highest judge in the land publicly states that the judiciary cannot be trusted to provide basic functional infrastructure, that is a vote of no confidence. Hurricane Melissa was an act of nature, but this delay in restoring our courts is an act of sheer incompetence. We are not blaming the minister for the hurricane. We are blaming the minister for the total absence of a recovery plan. It does not take 7 months to connect a water tank so that court workers can wash their hands. It doesn't take 7 months to post 1 or 2 police officers outside a courthouse to secure court files. Madam Speaker, if the Chief Justice of Jamaica can find the resources to fix the court infrastructure, what is the minister doing with his? And if he has none, is it that logistics has prevented the good Prime Minister from directing some of the barely touched disaster recovery funds to restore access to justice in these hurricane-affected parishes? to you, Madam Speaker, justice under this government is a disaster in need of recovery. I urge the Minister to commission and fund an emergency infrastructural and security audit of all rural courthouses across Jamaica. We demand immediate police security deployment to the Santa Cruz courthouse. We demand clear timelines and urgent allocations for the construction of the St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland parish courts so the people can access justice. Madam Speaker, I turn very quickly to an issue that I dub the legal aid injustice. Too many ordinary Jamaicans are being completely locked out of the courts because this administration refuses to expand the categories of cases covered by legal aid. The legal aid framework is rigidly structured to primarily cover criminal matters. But what does the data actually say? The data shows that the vast majority of citizens requesting legal aid are begging for help with civil matters over criminal matters. According to the Legal Aid Council, 90% of legal requests received from members of the public are for civil matters, particularly divorces tied to incidents of domestic abuse. Madam Speaker, access to justice cannot be a half measure. When a government limits legal aid to a narrow band of cases, it effectively closes the doors of the court to the poor. We see the consequences every single day in our courts. Unrepresented litigants struggling to understand complex legal rules, overwhelmed judges trying to balance the scales, and ultimately a breakdown of public trust in the rule of law. According to the Chief Justice's Civil Division Statistics Report, over 16,000 new civil cases are filed in the parish court every single year. But the report also shows that in up to 70% of those civil cases, at least one party is completely without a lawyer, forced to face a judge completely on their own. Madam Speaker, it is a David versus Goliath battle where the state refuses to give David a sling, not even a stone. What makes this absolutely worse, Madam Speaker, is that it has absolutely nothing to do with lack of resources. During the recent Standing Finance Committee right here at Gordon House, the Minister of Justice openly admitted on the record that the money is there. He proudly declared that the ministry satisfied all claims by attorney and has the fiscal space. Therefore, let us call it what it really is: a total lack of political will and complete indifference to the plight of the poor. The money is there. The budget has the space. The minister confessed that the funds exist. Yet this administration chooses to let those funds sit idle while poor Jamaicans are crushed by legal fees or forced to forfeit their rights because they cannot afford an attorney. The people do not want any more excuses, Madam Speaker. We do not want public relations mobile units that can only give legal advice but leave citizens defenseless when a civil trial actually starts. We demand that the government stop hoarding these resources, listen to the data from its own agencies, and immediately amend the regulations to expand legal aid categories to cover civil matters. Stop locking the poor out of justice. Madam Speaker, I move to address a deep inequity in our community justice system. The total lack of financial support, stipend, or expense coverage for Jamaica's justices of the peace. The Ministry of Justice expects over 7,000 JPs to render strictly voluntary service. They are forbidden. The Ministry of Justice expects over 12,000 JPs to render strictly voluntary service. They are forbidden from accepting any payment or reward, yet the state relies on them to process bail, to visit lockups, to conduct mediation. Active JPs must currently pay for their own stationery, printer, ink, travel costs to courts and prisons out of their own pockets, and even fund their expenses to serve in court as lay magistrates. Madam Speaker, this is not sustainable voluntarism. It is institutional exploitation. Madam Speaker, I do not yield. I do not yield, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Minister
Member
of
Jess.
Justice continues
Member
to
Jess.
flatly...
Member Jess. Member Jess. Member Jess. Please sit. Please sit. Member Jess, please sit. Listen, you know, if you would only learn the standing orders, esteemed members, I would so appreciate it. Member Jess, please take your seat. Minister Chuck, please quote the standing order number on which you are raising a point of order.
The member is misleading the House.
That is not a... that is not a...
Go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
You need to stop. Member Jess, I have not turned your mic on so that your time does not run. And I'm using this opportunity to reiterate what is not a point of order is misleading the House. Points of order are statements made in a debate that contravenes the rule of the House. And therefore, points of interruptions, which is subsection 2 or B, are requiring the member on their feet to sit and allow the courtesy of the other member saying what their point is of interruption or clarification. And so this is another teaching moment for us. In addition to which, since I've already interrupted the member on her feet, members, allow her to do her presentation as is required in silence in the House. Members, I am sure that I'll soon complete my research in dropping some additional instruments in the House that help us to hear all of these comments that I can barely hear up here. I'm sure the public would love to know what we are saying, and I would love to know too. Member for St. Elizabeth Northeast. You may continue. And member, in order not to interrupt you, I'll ask the assistant clerk to add your additional time at the end, so the mic will, the monitor will go off when you're finished.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Minister of Justice continues to flatly reject proposals for a stipend for JPs. He calls it a pure voluntary post, ignoring that the cost of paper, gas, and electricity makes it a luxury only the rich can afford. True justice cannot run on charity alone. The opposition demands a modernized framework for our JPs. Madam Speaker, this administration is completely out of step with global trends. There is clear established international precedent for the financial facilitation of JPs, proving that voluntarism does not require a person to compromise their own livelihood. The opposition urges the ministry to look across the globe and recognize how modern democracies practice or protect their JPs. In the UK, in Australia, in Canada, in those jurisdictions, JPs are also volunteers, but they receive a loss of earnings allowance and travel expenses. They do not pay out of pocket to serve the Crown. The state actively reimburses them for the costs incurred while delivering justice. The opposition is not calling for a lavish salary. We're calling for an enforceable, transparent stipend modeled after international best practices. It is time to treat Jamaica's JPs with the global standard of dignity they deserve. We pay notaries public to notarize documents, and we pay judges to hear cases. Why shouldn't we offer our JPs a stipend to cover out-of-pocket expenses? Madam Speaker, the primary duty of this House is to pass laws that deliver justice, not absurdity. I turn now to address a glaring crisis in our judicial system. The Firearms Prohibition, Restriction and Regulation Act requires urgent common sense amendments. I would be the first to join any sensible effort to be tough on crime, because it is a monster that must be tamed and eliminated. That said, it befuddles me as to why we would seek to use a hammer to hit a mosquito. This administration passed a law so poorly thought out that it has ceased to protect the public and has instead made criminals out of non-violent Jamaicans, including creatives. Just weeks ago, Madam Speaker, a music producer was slapped with a mandatory minimum 15-year sentence, not for a real weapon, but for imitation firearms used as props in music videos. Not a single bullet could ever leave those plastic barrels. Yet this government used a 15-year sledgehammer to crush a creative professional who posed no threat to public safety. A prominent defense attorney recently lamented the sheer absurdity of this regime by revealing that the state actually wasted time and precious resources conducting ballistic tests on a cardboard cutout of a gun. Cardboard, Madam Speaker. Under this government, a cardboard cutout is being taken to a government lab to test if it can fire a bullet. Government forensic experts are performing ballistics on cardboard. Madam Speaker, this Parliament must act without delay. We must urgently amend this law to restore full, unrestricted sentencing discretion to our judges, and we must make these amendments retroactive, so those currently suffering under this legislative failure can have their sentences reviewed. Madam Speaker, If we needed any further proof that the administration of firearms in this country is broken from the top down, we need look no further than the Integrity Commission's own Report 37 of 2026. That report tabled yesterday found that the Firearm Licensing Authority, under the watch of its Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Shane Dallin, presided over a vault where ammunition belonging to private citizens went missing, a computer system that was deliberately manipulated to destroy the livelihood of a licensed dealer using the identity of a man who was already dead. And a server whose catastrophic failure conveniently erased the very evidence that would have identified who gave the order. Madam Speaker, a man who runs an authority where the dead are used to falsify records, where vault doors cannot account for what is inside them, and where evidence disappears without consequence, has no business holding public office. The People's National Party therefore calls unequivocally and without reservation for Mr. Shane Dallin to resign immediately. The People's National Party therefore calls unequivocally and without reservation for Mr. Shane Dallin to tender his immediate resignation. The people of Jamaica deserve leadership that upholds the law, not leadership that the Integrity Commission itself has found wanting. Madam Speaker, the people need justice. But Madam Speaker, justice is not about a sentence handed down in a courtroom. Justice is a lived experience. This administration likes to paint a beautiful picture of justice, but my job today is not to admire the paintwork. It is to open the hood and examine the engine. The engine of justice is making a rattling sound sparked by an alarming rise in police fatal killings. And let me be very, very clear. I will forever defend the police's right to defend themselves when faced with deadly force from criminal elements. But the latest Indicom data shows that 133 persons have already been shot and killed by members of the security forces since the start of this year alone. Madam Speaker, the engine of justice is rattling. This rattling requires us to confront the dangerous rhetoric coming from the very top of our justice system. Instead of demanding accountability, the Minister of Justice recently responded to these tragedies by declaring that the law allows police to use reasonable force, including deadly force, to stop a fleeing suspect. To tell a grieving, terrified nation that running away gives the state a legal right to execute you on the streets is a grave mistake. The engines of justice demand protection of the right to due process. The engines of justice demand a fair trial. The engines of justice demand the presumption of innocence. Running away must never become an automatic death sentence, nor can we allow the ministry to rewrite the law to justify street-side executions. Madam Speaker, equally troubling is the police commissioner's dismissive response. Madam Speaker, might I have your protection? Madam Speaker, equally troubling is the police commissioner's dismissive response, defending police failures as being viewed through the lens of hindsight. But when lives are lost, evaluating police actions is not an exercise in hindsight. It is a demand for foresight. It is a demand for training. It is a demand for the use of body-worn cameras, and it is a demand for basic human rights. When the police commissioner, in the wake of public outcry, tells rank-and-file officers not to become paralyzed by criticism, he is building a wall of institutional arrogance. He is telling his men that they are above the law, above the people, above accountability. Madam Speaker, the people need justice. Following the devastation of Hurricane Melissa, our people were promised relief. Donors sacrificed and gave generously to help families rebuild. Over $1.44 billion in cash donations poured into government hands. Yet, according to the Auditor General's report, this administration only spent a measly, insulting 1.8% of those funds. While many Jamaicans are still sleeping under tarpaulins, while schools remain damaged, while small business owners are struggling to rebuild, millions of dollars sit idle in government hands. Only 1.8% has trickled down to poor Jamaicans who lost everything. Madam Speaker, the Prime Minister refused to admit his failure by stating that they wanted to get the perishables out first. Is this a confession, Madam Speaker? Is this a confession that this government does not know how to multitask? What is the Prime Minister's explanation for unused relief monies from Beryl 2 years ago? Madam Speaker, the people need justice. I turn very quickly to the $1 billion solidarity program that was announced to rescue our Jamaican people. Yet, the Ministry of Labour just issued a press release claiming that $533 million was returned to the consolidated fund. They tell us that nobody pocketed the money. They tell us that returning $533 million to the consolidated fund was simply a legal requirement under standard financial regulations because the fiscal year ended. In other words, Madam Speaker, the ministry's best excuse is literally, we didn't steal it, we were just too slow to spend it. But Madam Speaker, to the grandmother in my constituency who went to bed hungry last night, waiting for that $20,000 grant that the government promised, this rebuttal is a distinction without a difference. Whether it is called pocketing, reallocating, or returning to the consolidated fund, the bottom line is that the money did not reach the people, and the people need justice. Madam Speaker, when 75% of the persons targeted to benefit from that $20,000 grant did not get access to those funds, that is not justice. That is the government acting as both the giver and the ultimate taker, and the people need justice. Madam Speaker, justice means different things for different people. Justice is a smooth road for the people of northeastern St. Elizabeth who just want to reach home safely. Neglected roads are not just an inconvenience, they are a denial of justice. The continued neglect of our critical crossings is unacceptable, Windsor Bridge is on the verge of collapse and Grosman Bridge is a ticking time bomb. This is not just a failure of engineering. This is a failure of infrastructural justice. The urgent repair of these bridges is a matter of life and death, and the people of northeastern St. Elizabeth need justice. The absolute peak of injustice, the ultimate betrayal of public trust is the scandalous execution of the Spark program in northeastern St. Elizabeth. The former Member of Parliament handpicked 10 roads for repair. All 10 roads were picked from one single division, and it happens to be the one JLP controlled division. Meanwhile, the three PNP controlled divisions have been complete.
House Leader, House. House Leader, if the opposition does not stop, there will be no extra time given, even if requested by the House Leader. So I would encourage the members of the opposition to please be quiet. And Miss Burchell, Member Burchell, could you kindly not do that? Would you like me to go back to your member from South St. James? Inappropriate. House Leader, members of the opposition, members of the House, the members' time for St. Elizabeth Southeast was already increased because I said to her I did not want to break her again because I'd stopped her when Minister asked for a point of order. So the clock, no, it doesn't matter what you have left. I am giving her 1 minute to wrap up. Okay, House Leader, no additional time. No additional time. No additional time. House Leader, don't turn your mic on again, member. Member, do not turn your mic on again. House Leader. House Leader. Member, if you turn your mic on again, you will not get any additional time. If you don't obey when you are spoken to in the House, you will not be afforded the courtesies to extend. The House Leader came up, he asked for additional time. I've asked you to be quiet, I've asked you not to turn your mic on again, and you refuse. No, because the House Leader needs to speak. I told her not to turn it on. House Leader, please turn your mic on.
Madam Speaker, I'm asking that the member be given 2 minutes to complete her presentation.
Members, so you hear, I extended the member's time already, and I asked the member to take her seat and do not turn on her mic. I am asking, when instructions are given in the House, that we abide by the instructions. Question is that the member be given 2 minutes to complete. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Member from St. Elizabeth Northeast, you may proceed. Turn your mic on.
The 3 PNP-controlled divisions in northeastern St. Elizabeth have been completely left off the Spark program. Not one single road was selected from the Braze River Division. Not one single road was selected from Silo Division. Not one single road was selected from Balaclava Division. Not one. The 3 divisions represented by the People's National Party have been completely starved of resources on the Spark. They have received 0 road allocations on the Spark. This is not justice. This is political victimization. This is the weaponization of public funds. This is the weaponization of public funds to punish people for how they vote. It is corrupt, it is malicious, it is a dangerous denial of justice to the thousands of people in northeastern St. Elizabeth, and the people need justice. Madam Speaker, we envision a justice system where if you run in fear from a system that terrorizes you, you are not executed on the streets. We see a Jamaica where top-paying jobs in multi-billion-dollar state agencies are distributed by merit and not by DNA. True justice cannot exist when the hiring process somehow conveniently narrows down to a branch on the family tree. Justice belongs equally to the farmer in Monique, the vendor in Santa Cruz, the fisherman in Black River, and the child growing up in every district across this country. Under the leadership of Mark Golding, that is the Jamaica we seek to build, and that is the fight we will wage from the halls of this parliament to the streets. Madam Speaker, even the late, great Bustamante would agree that this administration is not practicing equal rights and justice. I rest my case.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the member from St. Elizabeth Northeastern for her presentation and all the members who presented today. I want to ask you to suspend the debates for the sectoral debates.
Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
Previously we had asked that the agenda be suspended and we went directly to public business. I'm asking that we recommit the agenda items from the beginning.
Question is that we recommit the agenda items. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Clerk. Statement by ministers. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House are the following. Annual performance report of the Ministry of Local Government. You're all talking. You're all talking. I'll wait on silence. Laid on the table of the House are the following: annual performance reports of the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development for the financial year 2025-2026, and finally, Ministry Papers numbered 31 to 34 of 2026, respectively titled Cabinet Agenda Issues dated February 2, 2026, February 9, 2026, February 16, 2026, and February 23, 2026. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Members, bills brought. No, I'm not here. Member, I'm sure you don't want me to. Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice at the next sitting of the House, I will move the following motion. Be it resolved that the monetary policy statement for the 6 months ended March 2026, supported by quarterly monetary policy reports dated February 24, 2026, and May 26, 2026 respectively, which were all laid on the table of the House of Representatives on the 2nd day of June 2026, be referred to the Standing Finance Committee for consideration and report. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Thank you. Questions and answers to questions?
Madam Speaker, as the time is now 5:22, I now move that the House be allowed to receive and answer questions beyond the time normally allowed.
Those in favor? Those against? If you're against it, the questions are yours, so you can vote against.
You want a divide?
Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. House Leader, you have any?
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice at the end of 21 days. I will ask the Minister of Energy, Transport and Communications the questions standing in my name.
So, no, you will not be allowed today, member, and it's a teaching moment for you as well. Yes, so, for you and many other members. So I won't say much further. I'm going to accept your resubmission. However, I'm going to ask that you also just drop an email, something officially from yourself, indicating that you would like to withdraw what you previously submitted. I won't refer to who the member is. Thank you, member. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice, motions relating to the sitting of the House, motions for leave to introduce bills, presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained, public business. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier. And this is in reference to the BOJ statement and quarterly monetary policy reports, to referring it to the Standing Finance Committee.
The question is that the standing orders be suspended to enable the minister to take the motion, notice of which he gave earlier. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
I ask that the motion, notice of which I gave earlier, be approved.
The question is that the motion, notice of which the minister gave earlier, be approved. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. Leader of opposition business, a moment, please.
Madam Speaker, it is not intended to do any further business in the House today, so I'm asking that the House be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
Question is that this honorable House be adjourned for a date to be fixed.
I'm an uncertain man.
Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This honorable House now stands adjourned.
No, I said, person who come from, brother, I want to live good, man. I want to live good, brethren. No shake hand, I can play a little ball, brethren.
Really have to shake hand?
Yeah, man, and no badness, brethren. Just live good, man.
Come together as one and make the violence done. coding and programming share the same language. So I got more interested because of programming, because a couple of years ago I did wanted to do programming at VTDI.
We want to hear from you. The Human Resource and Social Development Committee is inviting members of the public to share their views on the private members' motions concerning the following proposed changes to the Representation of the People Act. 1. Voters not being limited to using a black lead pencil to make a cross on the ballot. 2. Allowing outdoor agents to be within 20 yards of the polling station. 3. Polling stations closing 1 hour later. 4. Presiding officers not rejecting ballots due to incorrect removal of the counterfoil. And 5. The government immediately funding the Electoral Office of Jamaica, conducting a total re-verification of voters in Jamaica. What are your thoughts on these changes? How do you think this will improve your voting experience? Your feedback is important and will assist the committee in its deliberations on these matters of national importance. All submissions should be made in writing and sent to clerk@japarliament.gov.jm. Persons making submissions may be required to appear before the committee at short notice to explain their views. For more information, visit the Parliament of Jamaica